Hello students, welcome to our Darasa Online. My name is Pili Peter Matem, a biology teacher. I'm here to revise with you a Form 2 class under the topic Safety in our Environment, subtopic Waste Disposal. Okay, now today we are going to discuss on principles for waste disposal and also the proper methods which are used in waste disposal. Just to remind you, we had the same period last time. In this period we discussed on what is the meaning of waste disposal. Also we discussed the classification of waste as solid waste, liquid waste, as gaseous waste, and also sludge. We classified waste according to organic state and inorganic state, hazardous or non-hazardous, biodegradable or non-biodegradable waste materials. Now today, as I told you now, we are going to discuss on principles of waste disposal. Let us be guided by this question. Using 3 examples in each case, explain how you will apply the principles of disposing waste collected at your home and school. We know that in our everyday life, we produce waste. Now, these waste materials, we don't throw them away in anyhow, but there is manners on how we should dispose waste. We call these manners the principles of waste disposal. We are guided with several principles. Let us look at these principles. Basic principles of waste disposal. We are guided by the principle which says that reduce the amount of waste, reuse the amount of waste, and also recycle waste. So you can see the principle number 1 is called reduce or reducing principle. This principle of reducing, it tries to explain that you need to minimize the amount of waste which are produced. What does it mean when we say that minimize the amount of waste produced? Here it means that you can do this by buying the products which are more durable and they can last longer. Buy durable materials which can last longer. For example, you students, you can buy the school bags which are more durable rather than buying the school bags which are not durable, which you use maybe for only 6 months and it gets destroyed. But if you buy the durable one, you can buy one bag, you use it for 4 years or even 6 years if you buy the quality bag. This principle tries to reduce the amount of waste. Instead of having several bags at your room, now you are having one good durable bag. And also, you can minimize the amount of waste by, for example, at the household, by buying the rechargeable batteries instead of buying the disposable ones. You cannot dispose every day. You buy the batteries, you dispose them. But if you buy the rechargeable batteries and its charger, you will use it longer than buying the one which are disposable. So here we say that buy durable products which last longer. Example, durable school bag or durable shoes. If you buy plastic shoes, per year you can buy even 5 pairs. But if you buy the durable one, you can just buy 1 pair. Also, this principle tries to educate us. Instead of buying shopping bags every day, you can just use a basket, use it in shopping. So use basket for shopping instead of buying the shopping bags every day, you see. You see? And also, when you are doing cleanness, you can use papers to clean the windows, and you use a lot of papers. But if you take a clean piece of cloth, you can use it to clean the windows or the surfaces, and you wash it and you use it again and again. So that is the principle of reducing the amount of waste. My dear students, you can add more things which you think that you can reduce the amount of waste when you do them. Okay, another principle number 2 is about reusing. Reusing the amount of waste we produce. What does it mean? This means that reuse the item before you can throw it away. or we can say before you can discard it. How do we practice this principle of reusing? For example, we can maintain and repair products which are already worn out. If we can repair them for more use, it's good to repair rather than throwing them. So, maintain the repairing of the durable products. This one will reduce the amount of waste. Also, you can use bags, you can use containers and other items to use for different purposes. For example, you can use the container which previously was keeping a margarine or was keeping the butter. You can use that one to store food in the refrigerator instead of throwing them. So you can reuse them, okay? So that is what we do in the principle of reusing, that instead of throwing the material, you can use it again. And also, we can practice this principle by, if not necessary, you don't need to buy new products. You can borrow the product, you can rent or share items frequently. So you can share items frequently instead of going to buy things which you think that you are not using them frequently. So we say that this principle, borrow, rent, or share items. Okay. About the same principle here, there is another example that sell or donate goods instead of throwing them out. Sell or donate goods instead of throwing them. For example, in our household, you can be having some electronic materials like TV, radios, computers, or home appliances. Don't throw them as waste materials, but you can donate them to maybe local school or neighbors who can continue using them. So we say that sell or donate And you can do this even for the case of clothes. If you have clothes, you have got children who has already grown up. Previously, they are playing with the toys. The clothes they used to wear now, they are not their size. Now, instead of taking them to disposal, it's good if you can donate them either to the needy or to the charity, church, etc. Okay? And also, to explain more about this principle, you can purchase non-disposable products instead of purchasing the disposable ones. At home, you can have the spoons, which are maybe stainless steel material, instead of using the disposable materials, because the disposable one you will be disposing every day, and adding amount of waste. But if you purchase the non-disposable items, you will reduce the amount of waste. Okay, students, can you add more examples how we can reuse materials? Good. Now, let's discuss about the other principle. Principle number 3, which is about recycling of waste materials. Recycling of waste materials. What is recycling, by the way? Recycling means that converting of used waste materials into new usable forms. This is waste disposal by recycling, you see. Can you give the examples? The materials we can recycle them. For example, the cow dung. The cow dung can be turned into materials which produce biogas. And this gas can be used at our homes, in the industry, in schools, you see. Cow dung can be used to generate biogas. Also, cow dung can be applied in our farms as manure. So instead of throwing it as a waste material, you can reuse it by recycling. Okay, another example which we can shows recycling, including, for example, metal scraps. The metal scraps can be melted to produce other iron materials which are usable. Okay, another example is that materials such as papers, magazines, materials such as packagings, cartons, those materials can be taken back to the industry and they make new materials such as tissue papers. So you can see these are the usable forms which are very important. Instead of throwing the waste materials, we can change them into other forms which we continue using and using and using. That is about recycling. Okay, students, another example of material which we can recycle is sewage. You know, sewage and the factory waste can be purified to be used for domestic purposes. Can be used again in all purposes at the household or domestic purposes. Let's put it domestic purposes. Okay, another example which I would like to share with you here is that materials also which we can recycle, for example, the yard materials or the garbages, domestic waste. Some of the domestic waste, especially the kitchen waste, we can make composting, where we turn them into harmless and they turn into manure. You can apply them in the garden or in the flower belt at home, you see. So domestic waste can be composted into manure. Okay, students, you can add more examples when we say recycling. And mind you that recycling have got types of recycling. There is those one, we call them primary recycling, whereby materials are changed into the other materials of the same type. But there is this secondary recycling, whereby materials, those waste materials, are changed into other new materials, but used the same material which have been recycled. Tertiary type of recycling, it includes the breaking down of the materials by chemicals to produce something else which is different from the original. So there is categories of recycling. We can see this is a good method of eliminating waste or minimizing the amount of waste we produce at home. Other principles of waste disposal. Recyclable waste should be separated from non-recyclable waste, as I showed you from my picture. Recyclable waste should be separated from non-recyclable waste materials. Let me show you that picture again. Recyclable materials separated from non-recyclable materials. But this one, great precautions should be observed when disposing hazardous waste. Separate them from other garbages. Greater precautions should be observed when disposing hazardous waste. Separate them from other garbages. Hazardous waste, we say that these are the type of waste which pose immediate threat to the environment or to the organisms around. Now, when handling them, either you have to wear the protective gloves, and also you have to dispose them accordingly. Use protective materials when collecting, disposing waste. Don't handle waste materials with your bare hands. Wear protective gloves. Food and yard waste should be separated from other garbage so as to be delivered to compost. Compost site, we shall discuss this later. Compost site here is where organic materials are put together. They are pulled, watered so that they can decay. They turn into manure. They can be applied in the gardens or in farms. So this farmyard waste should be separated from garbage as to be delivered to a compost site. It is necessary to treat sewage before it is emptied to water bodies. You know, sometimes waste material, the sewage materials sometimes can have dissolved chemicals which are hazardous, chemicals such as mercury or cyanide. Those are the elements which are poisonous. So when you are disposing waste, you need first of all to treat sewage. They can have also bacteria or microorganisms which can cause diseases. Another thing which you need to take measure of it is that sewage system must be checked for time to time to control leakage. Sometimes they can be leaking. The pipes or the tanks, they can be leaking to release waste materials to the ground. They can contaminate underground water. They can kill microorganisms which are around. So to avoid that, they need to be checked time to time to check if they are leaking or if they are just okay. And another one is that radioactive waste should be disposed of by putting them in tanks and dipping them in deep oceans. Radioactive materials, these are the industrial materials. You cannot just dispose them the way we dispose, let's say, garbages, because they are radioactive, they are dangerous, they are harmful. They need to be disposed in a special way. For this case here, they are put into tanks and then taken to deep sea, whereby they cannot cause any harm. Okay, students, let us see classification of waste according to recycled and non-recycled type of waste. can be classified as recyclable and non-recyclable waste. What are the recyclable waste? Recyclable waste, these are the wastes that can be used safely or can be used again. This means that you can change them into other form and you use them or you reuse them. We call them recyclable waste. Example of this kind of waste, you can mention papers, glasses, those scrap metals, they can be recycled, plastics or beverage bottles, etc. These are the few to mention. What are non-recyclable waste? Non-recyclable waste, these are the materials which they cannot be reused safely in their present state. Example of these materials, can you mention the materials which you cannot recycle them? For example, tissue papers, you cannot recycle them again. Or soiled papers, those are already written off, you cannot recycle them. Cotton wool, the few to mention. Now, let us see the picture trying to show the materials which are recycled and the materials which are non-recyclable. Can you see this is the process of recycling waste materials? This is a car which carries waste materials. It have got different chambers here, there. The waste materials are put according to their classification or their categories. Those which are recycled, not recycled, hazardous or harmful, and non-hazardous, organic or non-organic, they are put in this car which is special for waste disposal. This one shows recycled waste materials. Here there is paper, glass, plastic, metals. As we are discussing the principles, you cannot mix these materials together because all of them, for this case here, all of them, they are recyclable materials, but you cannot mix papers with glasses. or plastic materials with the metal materials, or metal materials with the papers. You need to sort them. That's why in the process of waste disposal, first you need to sort the waste materials. You put them into their categories. If they are solid, or they are liquid form, or if they are sludge, whatever. And if they are recyclable or not recyclable. If they are organic materials we studied last period, or not organic condition. Okay, students, you can see also this picture, non-recyclable waste materials. As you can see them, these materials, you cannot use them anymore. You cannot change them into other form for use. You can see here the juice bottles, the containers, plastic materials, which maybe they contain the milk, they contain the beverages, they cannot be recycled. But what I showed you, the recyclable materials, already you have seen them. Now, students, let us now discuss the proper ways of waste disposal. We have several ways of disposing waste. We call them methods. And one of the method is recycling. That is a method. What is recycling? I have already discussed this with you on the principles of waste disposal. One of the principles is recycling. Now also you can find this principle in the proper ways of waste disposal. Now in this principle of recycling, the same thing, that is a principle of turning the used materials into new forms to continue be used. Turning used materials into more useful products. Sorry, I'm supposed to stop. Okay, students. In recycling materials, the materials which are already been used, instead of throwing them away, they can be taken to the industry and change them into other new form to be used again. You can see this picture again here. The materials, papers, glass, plastics materials, and the metals. These are the materials which can be melted or turned into other forms. For example, plastic materials can make mats. Glass materials can make new other glasses. Paper materials can make tissue papers. Metal materials can make other facilities which are in metallic form. Now, let us see, is there any importance of recycling? As a method of waste disposal, it have got its importance. One of the importance is that it reduces the amount of waste which is taken to the landfill or to incinerators. Incinerators, these are the method also of waste disposal. Reduces the amount of waste materials taken to the landfill. The landfill, this is, we can call it a dump, or let us call it a dumping site. So in the dumping site, there are a lot of waste materials are taken there, and they need also to be destroyed by several methods. Now, recycling tries to reduce the amount of waste taken to the dumping site or the waste materials which can be taken to the incinerator. Okay, here is the question which tries to explain the proper ways of waste disposal. If you answer this question, you will be able now to understand the methods. As a Form 2 student, explain how you will educate your fellow students on the proper ways of disposing non-recyclable waste. Now, from this question, you can be able now to know how to dispose non-recyclable waste materials. Now, another importance of recycling is that it conserves natural resources such as minerals. Recycling method enable to conserve the natural resources, such as the minerals, such as the land also. Okay. Another importance of recycling is that it can increase economic security by tapping domestic sources of material. So here it means that the domestic waste which are produced, they are taken to the industry. They are the raw materials. For that case, they try to improve the economic security. Another advantage or another importance of recycling, we say that it tries to prevent pollution by reducing the amount of waste produced. Another importance of recycling is that it saves energy. Now, my dear students, up to now, I hope you have understood the principles of proper waste disposal. What is important, you need to know that these principles, the basic principles, are based on 3 areas. Which are reduction principle, reusing principle, and recycling principle. What is incineration? Incineration, this is a proper method of waste disposal whereby the medical wastes or the hazardous waste, which mostly are medical or clinical waste, are disposed under high temperature. They are burnt under very high temperature and be destroyed completely. Okay, incineration, this is a method whereby medical waste or those hazardous waste are burnt under high temperature and turned into non-infectious waste materials. Let us see an example of an incinerator. This is an example of an incinerator. A place where hazardous waste materials can be burnt under high temperature. You can see here, these are the waste materials, can be clinical waste. When I say clinical waste, it can be soiled bandages, used syringes, or can be the amputated body organs, or can be maternity ward waste materials. So they are put in this incinerator and they are burnt under high temperature, so that they cannot infect the environment and even the people who are around. Now students, after knowing these 2 methods of proper ways of disposing waste. I hope next period I shall discuss more other methods which will continue with burying waste and composting waste and also sewage. Now let me give you the homework questions. Here is the homework questions. Which method will you use to dispose clinical waste? Give reason. Which method will you use to dispose clinical waste? You have just discussed it. Give reason. Question number 2. Why recycling method is important in waste disposal? Also, I leave you with the reference books for more clarification or for more study. Okay, these are the reference books. Abdallah S. Ngodu, School Certificate Biology 1 by Ujuzi. Arafa M. and Mustafa A. Biology Secondary Schools Form 1. SC, SU, and Movet. This is the Ministry of Education Zanzibar. Biology for Secondary Schools Form 1 and 2. And the Tanzania Institute of Education, Biology Students Book 1 and Book 2. When you consult these books at the given pages is where you are going to find my presentation for more reference. My dear students, let me end here my lesson. We have mentioned the only 2 principles of proper waste disposal. Hope to discuss with you again next period on the other principles, on the other methods of waste disposal. Thank you.